people all know that creatine works and they believe in it and they don't think there's anything else on the planet that can help you build muscle and perhaps more so than creatine.
Terkestrone.
Can you guys see the friggin' veins in my stomach right now? Like, I'm just about to head to bed and it just seems like any sort of like water or bloat that I've had is just gone and my skin just feels way tighter and I have like a pump. What the heck?
Coach Greg, and in today's video, I'm going to be answering the question, explain the mechanism of action of how ecdysteroids actually work. Now, we all know that they work, that they're effective of putting on muscle, to having more energy, that they're a very quality product, but why? How? You're all thinking that means terkestrone, right? It's actually Ajuga turkestanica, which contains terkestrone. And so these ecdysteroids, they all technically work to varying degrees. And Ajuga turkestanica from HCLT supplements from Uzbekistan, it's better than the rest. You can get the copycat plant from China. There's some benefit, but it's extremely minor compared to getting the top quality product. And so if you want the best of the best, code Greg, 15% off.
So I am showing my face today because I would like to give you a brief summary of all of the human trials on ecdysteroid containing extracts. So this is not studies on Turk Builder. This is studies on raw materials which researchers extracted, verified the composition of ecdysteroids, and administered to their test subjects.
And remember, Marwan is the guy who went to Uzbekistan. He's in various videos, filming, interviewing, and so he saw the entirety of the production facility from start to finish and has been involved in formulating everything from the beginning.
Ecdysterone is one of the major ecdysteroids in Ajuga turkestanica, in Raponticum, in Ceratula. These are all different sources that we use in our products. You can also find it in asparagus extract. You can also find it in the Chinese plant, cyanotus, and you can find it in spinach, quinoa. A whole bunch of plants have this as a plant defense chemical.
It's just in such a small quantity because I don't want them to think you can eat spinach like Popeye and get 20-inch forearms.
So I will be reviewing one of the phase 2 trials that were recently done on a population of elderly patients at risk of sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is muscle wasting. It's an age-related disease in which they wanted to answer the question, does ecdysterone reserve and functional capacity in elderly patients?
The viewer needs to know these are human trials, not mice, not rat, not in vitro. They're not pouring Monster energy drinks on a muscle cell and seeing if it grows.
The researchers found in a very large population of elderly patients that administration of ecdysterone led to an improvement in the 400-meter walk test. What this test is measuring the speed at which they can complete 400 meters. And this is a very sensitive test for the functional capacity of elderly patients, as walking speed tends to decrease as their muscle mass decreases.
And so was this like a study designed with like placebo and another group, like two different people, and one took the ecdysteroid, the other didn't, and the ones that took it were just better walkers, hence more muscle?
Absolutely. So compared to placebo, they found a significant increase in the speed of walking, which for a natural substance with almost zero observable toxic effects, that is quite a remarkable finding.
You know what it sounds like? It reminds me of GO2 Max, that study where they had the 6-minute walking test. The people that took NMN were able to talk a much further distance in that 6-minute time, and so clearly the product actually worked.
And now we are still talking about physical performance because that is what the most consumers care about. There was another study done by Eisenman et al. In which they administered a cyanotus extract to athletes. Compared to placebo, they found approximately a 4.7 kilogram increase in their 1 rep max for the bench press. They also found some endocrine changes which seemed to be favorable in the context of an athlete. They found that the training group, the placebo group's IGF-1 levels actually went down, while the ecdysterone group's IGF-1 levels actually increased slightly or stayed at the same level.
And so their bench press went up 10 pounds more than the placebo group, and IGF levels were much higher by using it.
They just remain constant.
Yes, but it was much higher than the other group. One group stayed the same, the other one went down. It was higher in the end.
Significantly higher than the placebo group.
Remember, this is statistically significant, which is very hard to prove.
Yeah, and there's a difference between something being statistically significant and clinically significant. What that means is you might have a trial that shows no statistical significance, but the difference that you see on the actual bar graph, the results, is enough to make a clinical difference in someone's life. A very recent trial showed something absolutely remarkable, and I was very surprised by this. They took a selection of obese participants. Obesity is a disease. One of the aspects of obesity that you might not realize, it can actually be considered a restrictive lung disease. Meaning you have all this body habitus, all this mass that makes it harder to breathe. When you lay down, you get sleep apnea, and it's not easy to breathe when you're 300 pounds. So they gave ecdysterone to these obese participants and found very significant increases in their forced vital capacity, a marker of lung pulmonary function. They also found increased chest wall expansion in these participants that were obese. We've never seen a single natural supplement perform in this matter. So if you think about, for example, our previous findings in the past before this study existed, where we do a lot of bike racing, we do a lot of cardio, and we found that it really did help with catching your breath and feeling like you can perform better. It's no surprise that an ingredient that can significantly improve pulmonary function in the status of someone who already has decreased pulmonary function, it's no surprise that it met our expectations in this regard. Now, in regards to physical performance, I'm just looking at the authors here. There are a lot of Russian studies in which we can go over them, but this form of evidence is not really valued by our viewers because they're not published in Western journals, they're not peer-reviewed, so I will not go over those today. I'll go over the Western studies that are more.
So that's one of the big problems, is that a lot of the research is done in different languages from different countries around the world, and so people aren't privy to all this information. But if they were, they would have a different view on what the products can actually do.
Another study by author Perez Pena et al. Using spinach extract standardized for ecdysterone on elderly participants found an increase in the torque of leg extension, like increased power compared to placebo, increased isometric strength as well compared to placebo. There are a lot of ingredients in nature that can support performance. If you go in the Journal of Sports Sciences and Nutrition and whatnot, you will find many different researchers trying to answer the question, what natural ingredients can increase your performance?
You know what's funny? I find people all know that creatine works and they believe in it. And they don't think there's anything else on the planet that can help you build muscle, and perhaps more so than creatine. Why do you think that only creatine would exist on planet Earth that can be a benefit?
This is another study that kind of explains the mechanism now, trying to determine the pharmacokinetics of ecdysterone, what it does to the human body, how it's excreted, how it's metabolized. One of the findings that they found in the blood work of the healthy participants is that their creatine kinase went down. Creatine kinase is a marker of muscle damage. So when you see an observable significant decrease in creatine kinase, that essentially means muscle breakdown has decreased. And what we know from our knowledge of bodybuilding and whatnot, decreasing catabolism means that you can build more muscle because you're spending less time in the day in which you are in a catabolic state. So it's a finding that suggests there is in fact a physiological effect on preserving lean mass, which extends into another study done by a different author in which they administered an asparagus extract standardized for ecdysterone to healthy participants. They had them undergo a weight training program, and then they had them stop the weight training program to see how much muscle each group would lose. The ecdysterone group did not lose significant amounts of muscle nor strength, while expectedly the placebo group, after detraining for 12 weeks, they lost quite a bit of muscle mass and strength.
And so imagine that you're taking the ecdysteroid and you're keeping all the gains that you made even after you stopped training. In comparison, the placebo group, they got weaker. And so which group would you hope that you were in?
And another secondary outcome which they found was ecdysterone administration led to significant reductions in cortisol. Cortisol is a catabolic hormone. Of course, it's very important for our immune systems, and we're not saying you need to crush your cortisol, but we're saying a small decrease in cortisol, or a significant one I should say, develops the hypothesis that perhaps some of the anti-catabolic effects are due to the the anti-glucocorticoid activity. There are some very interesting controversial trials which may send us out of the algorithm regarding the corona. Do you want me to enlighten?
We just call it the C word.
So this is a phase 2 trial done in the last few years by a pharmaceutical company in France, Biophytus. They were trying to answer the question of how can they improve mortality outcomes with the C word. So people with the C word, they usually, if they do end up passing, it's usually because of respiratory distress syndrome, meaning they can no longer breathe. They either have type 1 respiratory failure, meaning not enough oxygen. They wanted to see if ecdysterone would lead to an improvement in mortality and an improvement in respiratory failure in these patients. And this is absolutely remarkable. They found that there was a 48% reduction in mortality from respiratory failure through the length of this whole trial. And remember, we were just talking about the pulmonary function study where in obese participants it increased chest wall expansion, increased their FEV1 and their forced vital capacity. So it clearly has an effect on anti-catabolic activity. It clearly has an effect on pulmonary function and cardiopulmonary function for that matter, VO2 max. We are yet to see what other parts of the human body it can affect.
They're keeping more muscle even after they stop training. They have better cardio and endurance, and it's saving lives. Literally.
And that is an extraordinary claim for us to be making. We are not saying that this is a replacement for whatever intervention they administered in that study. We are just simply trying to hypothesize how these active ingredients are working. And that is the question you are all asking us. The absence of evidence is not
evidence of absence. I think we said that right.
Yeah, and we just ask people to have an open mind. There is very good safety profile studies from Uzbekistan on Ajuga turkistanica. I know I mentioned that these studies in Russia and Uzbekistan are not like peer-reviewed and not published in Western journals. However, our main reason for getting these publications on humans is to ensure it at least has a very good safety profile, which is what we did before releasing Turk Builder. There was no evidence of end organ damage, hepatotoxicity, renal toxicity, adverse psychiatric events based on the Uzbek trials, which you can see on our website, by the way. Check the references, read the write-ups. We want to have a safe alternative to what many vulnerable youths are trying to consume.
I mean, there's so many people risking their health with MK677, SARM, steroids. And if they only had something natural that they could look forward to taking that could help improve their gains, aside from just creatine, and this is it. We know that creatine works, even though if you did a study and you gave it to 30 people, you probably wouldn't see a statistically significant difference. You need to be a bigger study. You might gain 1 kilogram of muscle, perhaps some of it's water, whatever. Turk Builder Max is way better than creatine. It's not even close. And so if you don't believe me, that's fine, don't buy it. But if you don't believe me and you want to try it at a risk-free, you can use code Greg for 15% off. And then if you try it and it didn't build as much muscle as you were hoping for, you get your money back. I mean, could it get any better? Yeah, you could. You get a $20 gift card on top of that. And so why not try it out? We have the highest reorder rate that I've ever been told. Our account said it's unbelievable how many people keep buying this. And so all you need to do is have more people try it, because when they try it, they keep rebuying it. And so the key is more of you who haven't tried it yet need to try it out, and it's risk-free because it's a money-back guarantee and a $20 gift card. You try it, and if it works, you're going to keep rebuying it. If you try it and it doesn't work, you got your money back. And so what do you have to lose? And so if you're interested in trying it, code Greg, 15% off. And one more thing, a lot of people think that this is a test booster. It doesn't boost your testosterone. It's not how it works. This is a test booster, G-Test Platinum. And so if you're interested in increasing your testosterone levels by perhaps 200 nanograms per deciliter, this is what you want. You don't get Turk to boost your testosterone. It's not a test booster. Sick of people saying, you keep saying it's boosting your testosterone. I got my blood work taken. It didn't boost my test. That's not what it's for. G-Test Platinum, test booster. This to increase your gains. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm. Please like the video if you liked it. Don't forget to watch one of those 2 bloops. And of course, the cookbooks, training books, coaching plans by me and my team, the Circle Diet Book, clothing line. Get all that on the website, as well as I'm with Algo RX if you're looking to get your blood work done or to purchase any various medications, for example, Cialis, Viagra, at dramatically cheaper prices. For example, Cialis and Viagra are under $30. And so if you're interested in getting cheaper prices, these these salespeople, they're not getting commissions based on how much you buy, and so they have no incentive to try to oversell you anything. They're not going to try to convince you to take things that you don't need. And so if you're interested, click the link in the description. And until next time, I am out.